This podcast is not sponsored or supported by any business or organization. The views reflected on these podcast episodes are my own. Please be aware I am not a medical expert, travel agent, or any other kind of expert. Hey everyone, welcome to the Eat, Explore, Love podcast. I'm Ashley. This podcast is based off of my blog of the same name, Eat, Explore, Love. It talks about the unique challenges in traveling around the world when you have celiac disease. Due to sort of popular demand, I decided to also record a podcast to delve a little deeper into my travels and the lessons learned along the way. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Eat, Explore, Love, the podcast. I'm so excited to be chatting with you today about my experience taking my father to Venice. And if you're interested in hearing about the experience of taking my mother to Venice, you should go way back in the archives to the original posts and podcast episodes from almost a year ago and see about that experience. But it's truly interesting of my family saying as attitude is everything. And it's interesting after not being around family or the people that you grew up with or friends, when you spend a lot of time traveling, and why I think it is so important to travel is people put labels onto you. And when you're alone, you get to break all that down for yourself and figure out, who are you? And we're going to delve a little deeper into that at the end of this episode for the lesson. So here goes nothing. Another episode of Eat, Explore, Love, the podcast. As always, let's start off with the places that I ate at. I ate at an AIC-approved restaurant called Trattoria al Gazzettino. It was really expensive, like the other restaurant I talked about in my other Venice podcast, but it was so delicious. I would recommend checking this restaurant out and doing whatever you can to ensure that you have the funds. It's unfortunate that the both restaurants that I recommend are expensive ones, but they are so worth the money. I would be prepared if you're going to Italy, and if you're on a budget, Venice might not be the place to go and visit this time around because it seems like all the restaurants are a little bit more on the expensive side. But Trattoria al Gazzettino, which the spelling and everything you could, of course, as always, let's say it together, find on hieatexplorelove.com. Alrighty, so that's my recommendation for this time around. The other was Harry's Bar. Let's go see how we can explore Venice. For this trip, I did this pretty much the same thing that I did with my mother. I tried to do a different free walking tour, and unfortunately, the tour backed out on us at the last second, and we didn't get to experience it. But we did a Get Your Guide tour, which was a paying walking tour. This tour guide wasn't as great as far as delving into the history, and I think the way that Venice is built is so fascinating, and she really didn't get into that portion of it, but she did get into like the modern day politics almost, and I really appreciated that perspective this time. So I think that it really shows that whoever your tour guide is, that's everything. But I also think with Venice, there's value in maybe doing a tour in the beginning of the day, but really leave time, like I said in my first Venice episode, leave time to explore and get lost, because that's the best thing to do in Venice. And shop, of course. Those are my recommendations of how to explore Venice. This was another trip that I went on with my father. So as I've mentioned in previous episodes, he does not want to be interviewed, but he was willing to share his thoughts. So these are my father's thoughts. He did not like the tour and didn't feel that he got much information out of it. And the build up to Venice he felt was extreme, which, by the way, folks, as a side note, that is kind of normal. People either go and love it or they hate it. From seeing movies about Venice to hearing about the tours and my mother's experience, it wasn't the same for him. I enjoyed Venice more from the movies that he's seen over the years, but with all that said, to be able to see the canals and bridge in person was cool. From doing research and seeing snippets of what to do in Venice, he felt that we missed a lot, which, side note, frustrates me because I asked him what he wanted to do and he did not tell me. So when you're, as a piece of advice, if you're touring with a group of people, make sure to communicate all the things that you want to do so it can be all planned out. But we did get to go see the church, Harry's bar, the canals, but not the Venice of the Venetian. I'm not sure what that means, folks, but that's okay. He did love the quaint off the tour grid of the restaurant that we went to, and it was cool to learn in the tour that Venetians don't really consider themselves Italian. They're their own community and even have pretty much their own language, and he's glad that he got to see it. One man's opinion on Venice. So a big thing, I, at this point, had spent 9 months in Europe pretty much by myself, and my father joined me for my last week before I unfortunately had to move back to the United States earlier than anticipated. And in the lead up to this moment in time, a lot of people asked me, "Are you so excited to be moving back? Must be such a relief, yada, yada." And I kept saying to people, I know I am not done with the emotional work that I still need to do. There was a lot that I needed to undo of trauma I had been through with a previous relationship I had been in. There was a lot of trauma to undo in certain relationships that I had back home. And I needed to break down the labels that other people had given me and who their assumptions of who I was, and come into my own and figure myself out. And I was just in a place of making progress when my father had come. And again, this is not about people's intentions and thinking that people in my life are evil, but I do think a lot of people in my life, both my immediate family, extended family, friends, acquaintances, enemies, what have you, I think a lot of people have understood me and who I am. And that's part of, I don't communicate effectively with people. I spent a lot of my time growing up in theater, pretending to be other people and being quite successful for that and being celebrated for that. And it was a very difficult transition into adulthood where I had experienced a lot. Granted, someone always has it worse than you do, so I'm not saying I had the worst life ever, but I didn't have it easy. And I think a lot of people assume the worst in me instead of saying, giving me credit for what I had been through, what I had overcome, and how I came out the other side. Even my closest friends are usually quite critical of how I go about the world. And I actually had to take a moment while recording this to pause and come back to this because that statement made me so emotional. I think that a lot of people deal with this where there are the labels that other people put upon them, and people make assumptions that they know you better than you know yourself. And that is what's frustrating, that a lot of people, that I'll be sitting at a dinner table with people, and people will make claims about the type of person that I am. And I'm not even given the space to correct them or tell them why they're wrong. It is their version of me is fact, and my version of me, I don't know who I am, evidently, in their eyes. And I don't think people understand how hurtful that is, even if their intentions are not to be hurtful. And I still have a long way to go. And I'm thankful that I didn't move back to the place where I grew up, because I feel like I'm still allowed to make that journey. It is still tough because I am with my grandparents, and although they love me and think the world of me, they even have opinions of me that I am not feeling on the inside, that I do not feel are an accurate reflection of how I feel and how I think and how I view the world. And I haven't gotten to the point of figuring out why that is, because I still need to figure out who I actually am. And this podcast has been an interesting way of documenting that process. It's been an interesting way of moving through. And I feel like the people in my life have gotten to know me through this podcast. And in fact, a friend of mine has said that she feels that when she's listening, she's actually getting to know the real me. And that is my goal when writing this blog and this podcast, is to be able to introduce the people in my life to who I really am. It also showed me, when I saw my father again and his personality and all that other stuff, how far I have come in attitude is everything mentality. That I think a lot of assumptions of what people make about me, that they assume I'm going to react or respond a certain way, those 9 months changed me in a very real way that people have not given me credit for, and that I've made a lot of progress and I'm a lot calmer. I think that's starting to become undone, where I'm back in the United States and back in old habits and things like that. But things don't bother me, or didn't bother me, when I was alone for a long period of time. I'm finding, being back and living with other people, that because they are irritated by things, like, for example, my grandmother gets uptight. My grandparents both get uptight whenever we go to a restaurant, and they want things to be a certain way, and they have certain expectations. And that kind of got undone and unraveled in my 9 months abroad, where it was fine. I was pretty go with the flow. Things didn't bother me. And I am now starting to get those irritations back, of not necessarily the same irritations as my grandparents, but I'm irritated at their irritation. The point is not to be able to sit and look out a window. The point is not having tablecloths. The point is not where you are. The point is being able to just be with the people that are in your life. I don't even necessarily care about having to talk to people at a restaurant anymore. I have gotten more accustomed to just existing with others. So I think, it's interesting how I am feeling myself become more tense as I'm being reintegrated back into the United States, being reintegrated back on a more consistent basis, on talking with others, on talking with family, on talking with friends. And I felt like I noticed how much I had changed, and it shocked me at how much better I had gotten when I saw my father for the first time, because he was the first person I saw for 9 months from my life pre-moving to Europe. And I don't know that anyone else in my life really noticed it except for my best friend. And I think that people are quick to judge me and tell me that I do things wrong. And I think that this is a reminder to others of, you need to give people the space to grow. I don't believe in cancel culture. I believe in consequence culture for that reason. People cannot be held to the same standards of 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. We are ever evolving and ever changing. And there are things I was talking with someone about today that, God forbid, anybody sees what I posted on my Twitter in high school. And nowadays that stuff gets used against you. And I just wish that people were able to expand their minds to be able to see that people grow and change and they become better. So I'm hoping that I go back, as I'm recording this, I'm being reminded of where I was at 2 months ago and how much I've even changed and regressed in the past 2 months, and how I need to get back to where I was 2 months ago and then continue to evolve and become a better person from there. And I just want to thank those that are listening and being willing to get to know me and hear me and who I am as a person, because it's the only way I'm able to do that. Because unfortunately, the people that say that they love me the most are the people that are least desiring to want to do that. So that was my lesson for that week in Venice. Alrighty, as everyone knows and loves, it is time for the wrap-up questions. Do I feel the city is safe for those with celiac? Yes. My favorite place to eat, the only place we ate, is Trattoria al Giazzitino. And of course, if you want to see the spelling for that, go check out the blog, hieatexplorelove.com. Favorite memory from the experience? I enjoy just wandering around Venice. I think it's really cool and interesting, and I actually liked it a lot more this time around where I had no plan and just walked around. Is this a city to vacation to or live in? Vacation to. Is this a place to relax or be active? Relax. How were the people? Pretty cool. I liked them. They were awesome. I hope this gave a lot for people to chew on and munch on. As always, we now have social media platforms and all this other fun stuff that you could be part of the Eat, Explore, Love community. So make sure to check out all those opportunities in the description of the show notes. Till next time. Thank you for joining me this week for all the fun journeys and lessons learned on my big adventure called life. For more information on the different cities discussed, check out the blog posts on hieatexplorelove.com, posted every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you have any questions or fun stories to share, feel free to reach out at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com. Until next week, remember to eat well, explore the world, and love yourself. See you next time. This episode is produced, scripted, and edited by me, Ashley. Special thanks to Sarah Mientka.